going to try something new today. We're going to try and have a ceremony without the rain. So, welcome to St Peter's Cemetery as we commemorate the final resting place of the great Jimmy McMenemy. The headstone beautifully restored by a great friend of the Celtic Graves Society, Danny Rooney. And the most important people at any ceremony is the family, and we're delighted to have a number of the McMenemy family with us here today. And John McMenemy, Jimmy's grandson, will say a few words on behalf of the family. I'd like us to welcome the McMenemys with a round of applause, please. Today's first speaker is ex-Celtic chairman Brian Quinn. Brian's flown up especially from London this morning to attend the ceremony, leaving his house at 6 o'clock this morning. And with 5 league titles, 4 Scottish Cups and 3 League Cups from his tenure with Celtic, my fondest memory of Brian was actually the day he left the club. I'll tell you why. The reason for that was he was given a standing ovation from the capacity crowd, and the screens zoomed in on Brian beaming with pride. Now, the relationship between the Celtic support and the board has at times been fractious, but that night we got it 100% right, and we thanked one of our own. Next up is the legendary Jim Craig, Lisbon Lion and patron of the Celtic Graves Society. Anyone who has heard Jim speak knows that not only does he know his history, but he tells it straight from the heart. And who better then to speak of Jimmy McMenemy than the author of the Jimmy McMenemy book, amongst many others, David Potter. And then last but not least, we welcome the grandson of Jimmy McMenemy, John McMenemy, to say a few words. We've also got here today Charlie Gallagher, another one of the Lisbon Lions. Thanks very much, Charlie, for attending. We then invite Monsignor Bradley from St Mary's Calton, Celtic's birthplace, to conduct the blessing of the grave before we take the opportunity to lay some flowers. We'll then close the ceremony with some words of thanks and get some photographs taken. But ladies and gentlemen, we're standing at the graveside of one of the greatest players ever to have worn a Celtic jersey. The 9th top goal scorer, with the 9th most appearances for Celtic and an 18-year career with the one club. He would have been a one club man if he hadn't joined Partick Thistle for a couple of seasons and captained them to their only ever Scottish Cup win in 1921, causing a huge shock with a 1-0 win over Rangers at Celtic Park in the final. We'll let him off with that. He was a key player in the team that made Celtic great and kept us there over 2 decades, playing a key role in the 6-in-a-row team and the 4-in-a-row team that set the standards and took another 60 years to beat. I'm sure Jim Craig and Charlie Gallagher, as Lisbon Lions, would agree. If the European Cup had been around 60 years earlier, Jimmy McMenemy would have been one of the first Celtic players to lift it. An astonishing 11 league medals, 6 Scottish Cup medals. Yet, if you were to ask many of the younger generation in today's game, who was Jimmy McMenemy, many wouldn't know. But that's why it's our duty as Celtic supporters to remember our dead, to cherish their memories, to tell their story and to keep their names alive. Right up until his final years, Jimmy McMenemy would still attend Celtic Park and would reassure the Celtic support throughout the lean years that the good days would return. And boy, did that prophecy ring true. I'd like to introduce Brian Quinn to the first speaker.
Thank you, Brendan. I'm going to say something that might surprise you, at least at the outset. Jimmy McMenemy was not a Celtic legend. I took this from the Collins English Dictionary. A legend is a person whose fame or notoriety makes him a source of exaggeration or romanticised tales. And Brendan's already mentioned some of the honours that Jimmy McMenemy accumulated during his years at Celtic. 515 appearances, 168 goals, 12 Scottish League titles, and something I didn't know before I read about it, is that he played in a Celtic team which set a record that still exists for the record number of consecutive games without defeat. 62 games without defeat between November 1950 and April 1917. No club, no professional club in the UK has ever matched that. And that was a measure of the man who measured the team. He left Celtic after a spat, I think it's called, with the board. Not the first to do that, and I suspect not on my side. And he joined Partick Thistle. And as Brendan's already mentioned, his first act was to captain them to their only Scottish Cup to cover nothing victory of the Rangers. So I would say he's not a legend. I would say he's an immortal. He's a man whose memory and whose deeds live forever in the history of Celtic Football Club. The word that you read about Jimmy McMenemy, which is most often used, is composed. That was the style of the player, composed. He seemed to know what was going on all over the field without appearing to do so. He was called, of course, Napoleon of the Gerald because of its tactical and strategic awareness. If you think about it for a moment, all the great Celtic teams have always had a playmaker somewhere in the field. My own time doesn't go back anything like as far as Jimmy McMenemy, but I do remember even the teams that I've watched. You had Charlie Tully, who was a playmaker. A bit flaky from time to time, Charlie, but nevertheless he made things happen that other people couldn't. And then more recently, Bobby Murdoch, Bertie Auld, Charlie Gallagher was in the same mould, and more recently still, Moravchik and Nakamura. These were the players who did the unexpected and did things which no one else could do. Just a word about his playing style. And these are quotes that I've dug out from various sources. This comes from a Celtic book. Quote, his speed allowed him the option of driving a hole in opposition defences. He could head a ball with great accuracy, shoot with precision and power, or pick out a quick, accurate pass for one of his fellow forwards. And Willie Maley wrote, the football pitch to him was a chessboard. He was continuously scheming and plotting, and seldom troubled himself with the physical side of the game. He had no need. He was a Celtic man through and through. He came back to be, I think it was called the trainer, but it was in effect the coach of the Celtic side. And so his association with Celtic spanned a period of 63 years. I would say an immortal, and I'm proud and honoured to be asked to say some words in memory of Jimmy McMenemy today. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, star is a word that's often overused nowadays, but by any stretch of imagination, Jimmy McMenemy was a star. He was also a star at a time when Celtic initially weren't doing very well. He'd come in at the turn of the 20th century, and it took a few years before Willie Maley got the team organised the way he wanted. And during that period, McMenemy was sent out on loan a couple of times, one to East Stirling, another one to Stenhousemuir. Then of course they won the Cup in 1904, and that was the start of this great team that went on to do 6 league titles in a row of Bennett, McMenemy, Quinn, Summers and Hamilton. The style was slightly different in those days. They played a 2-3-5 formation, and the inside forwards had to work extremely hard because they were the grafters in the team. They had to get forwards and backwards. But if you look up the sort of statistics for the time, you'll see that all the 2 men who played inside forward in that team, Jimmy McMenemy and Peter Summers. McMenemy was the one who played slightly further forward because he scored more goals than did Summers. He would play in what's roughly called the home nowadays, or off the main striker, Jimmy Quinn. But in later years, in the 4 in a row of the early 1910s and then right up to the 1920s, he played slightly deeper. Patsy Gallagher came into the team. Gallagher was the front man of the 2 inside forwards who scored the goals. McMenemy, who still scored in actual fact, played slightly deeper there. He was obviously a remarkable man at a difficult time because it was a real tough game back then. He had the ability to be very quick over a very short distance, and I'm talking up to 20 yards or so. And as I say, time went on, he played a bit deeper and deeper, playing roughly the kind of role that for you older guys, Bobby Murdoch or Charlie Gallagher might have played, or for you younger guys, the role that Andrea Pirlo now plays for Italy as well. Just a turn of the shoulder, drop the shoulder, and player goes the opposite direction and he lays the ball off. They always look as though they've got tons of time on the ball. It was unfortunate he left Celtic in 1920. It was good for Patrick Thistle that he went over there because that's the only time they've ever won the Scottish Cup. And I think it was no surprise that when he came back to Celtic Park in the late 30s, that was a good period for Celtic as well. Picking up the Scottish Cup in 1937 with the biggest ever attendance at Hampden, the league in 1938, and of course the Empire Exhibition Trophy in 1938 as well, when another forward line of Delaney, MacDonald, Crum, Divers and Murphy rose to the challenge there as well. It's just a shame that he died in 1955, 2 years before he would have had the chance to see the Lisbon team in operation as well. I feel I can speak on behalf of the whole Celtic support when I would like to, first of all, congratulate the members of the McMenemy family for having such a distinguished incident, and also thank them on behalf of Celtic for giving us such a wonderful support. Thank you.
I think I would like to focus on what Jimmy McMenemy did in 1914. Now 1914, exactly 100 years ago, and we all know what happened in 1914. But on New Year's Day 1914, Celtic beat Rangers 4-0 along the road at Celtic Park. Just before half-time, Jimmy McMenemy picked up a ball in the middle of the Rangers' half and then beat all 5 of the Rangers' defence, which included people like Jimmy Gordon and Joe Hendry, good players they were. He beat all 5 of them before at the edge of the box he suddenly turned and crashed a great goal past Johnny Hempsey. And it was regarded as the best goal ever seen at Celtic Park up to that time. That was New Year's Day 1914. 4th of April 1914 for Scotland against England at Hampden. 1-1 at half time. Then McMenemy scored the key goal, the second goal. A corner came across, all the English defence went for Willie Reid, the Rangers centre forward, and McMenemy just held back a wee bit. He got the ball, he scored. And then, time running out, another shot hit the bar, Willie Reid headed the rebound. And therefore McMenemy was the hero of Scotland in 1914. 10 days after that was the Scottish Cup final against Hibs. Now the first game against Hibs was generally regarded as a poor game. McMenemy didn't play very well. Second game, 4-1, 4-0 for Celtic, can't remember, but 2 goals scored. Two goals scored in the first 10 minutes, both made by Jimmy McMenemy. 2 goals scored in the second half, both made by Jimmy McMenemy. He didn't score them, he made them. He was some guy. And I think perhaps the greatest tribute that could be paid to Jimmy McMenemy, somebody's mentioned he was called Napoleon because of his tactical know-how on the field. But in 1918, November 1918, when McMenemy was suffering from Spanish flu, almost died according to the Glasgow Observer, but then the Glasgow Observer gave us good news the following week and said that things will be much improved by the return to Parkhead of the Celtic Foch. And this was a reference to Ferdinand Foch, perhaps he's pronounced Foch, some people call him Foch. Ferdinand Foch, who was the man, the commander-in-chief of the Allied forces in 1918, the one who had dictated the terms of the armistice. Now, to compare somebody with Napoleon 100 years previously is good enough, but to compare him with the victor of that very hour is something different. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jimmy Napoleon.
Thanks very much to the Society for the invite along here today. And there's a few of my cousins here who I haven't seen for a number of years. And a lot of the memories of Jim